Hello and welcome to the East Lampeter Township Public Meeting. All participants are now informed that this meeting is being recorded. This meeting is also being offered virtually utilizing Zoom, which is a cloud-based platform for remote video and audio conferencing. The Zoom application is free to the public. The general public is therefore able to join the meeting by connection through the internet or by calling in by phone. The public is also able to observe the meeting on the township's YouTube channel. Please continue to check the Township website calendar for any updates related to these public meetings. Agendas for these public meetings will also be available on the Township's website. Please be reminded that this meeting is being video and audio recorded and will be posted to the Township's YouTube channel for viewing. The meeting will now proceed with the chairman calling the meeting to order and identifying all other members present in the meeting room and those joining the meeting via Zoom. The chairman will then confirm those members joining by Zoom can be heard.
Benny Patel. Township representatives are Ralph Hutchison, Charlie Thomas, and Tara Hitchens. And we expect engineer Matt Seachy here at any time. I don't see that we have any Zoom people in attendance, so I guess I invite you to join us in the pledge of the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we've had the minutes from last meeting for a couple weeks, and so if there's no additions or corrections, they're going to stand approved as written. Treasurer's report. Sanitary sewer.
Rick, I have a few bills that need paid for the sanitary sewer that total $1,274.50. We have a checking account balance as of the end of May of $9,305.12.
Any bills? Besides what's listed on the.
They would be the $1,274.50.
Don't know about the requisition. Should we wait to? Okay.
If we got the engineer's report, I guess they'd be listed on that.
I didn't download that. I mean, I know it was on there, but I didn't even look at it, to tell you the truth. Here we are. You've been introduced, Matt. We knew you would be here. We're looking for requisitions. If you're up to par with that, we're
So there's one requisition, 03-596. This is payable to Herbert Owen and Grubik. It's in regards to the Stafford Run Pump Station, the project there to upgrade construction administration, the bridge replacement project on State Route 30 for the sewer relocation, and the Oaks Pump Station elimination. The total amount is $6,094.75.
motion to pay the sanitary sewer bills and requisitions.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Stormwater.
Rick, I have bills that total $4,684.96. checking account balance is, am I correct? And Vinny and I were talking about it. Is it $268,030.17? Is that what we mean?
That's May 31st.
And that's where these blue checks, the account ending in 0127, that's where they're written from? Right.
Motion to pay the bills in the stormwater.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills to stormwater. Second.
Motion and a second to pay the bills. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Old business under sanitary sewer, Stauffer Run upgrade.
So the contractor continues to proceed with obtaining submittals and materials for the project. We've continued to review those and return them to the contractor. At the most recent job conference last week, we discussed the schedule. Contractors anticipate that they're going to have some materials available to them in mid-August that they can begin work on the project. However, some of the other major items are still about 4 to 5 months out. The MCC, which was the longest lead item, that was returned to the contractor last week with a couple comments so that they could proceed with getting that released into production. So that's the hopefully, I guess, July, August, hopefully November time period, so that we receive.
Yeah, did you say the MCC cabinets are like 23 weeks out?
Right.
So,
The building permit applications were resubmitted to address the comments, and we received notice that the permit will be issued for that, for the contract purposes as well. So no applications for payment yet. Not sure if it'll happen next month. The contract is really, until they start getting materials in, it's a lot of office time, things along those lines. They can start submitting once they receive materials, as long as they're properly secured and everything else.
Sounds good. Any other old business under sanitary sewer?
Apparently I wasn't turned on, sorry. Treehouse is satisfied, I think, the last of the conditions of approval, so they should be recording that plan shortly and getting a building permit, and getting underway with their project.
One other item on the PennDOT Route 30, the sewer relocation associated with the bridge replacement. There may be some forms that will require signature, so over the next month, that may reach out, request to be signed. In addition, if we haven't already, we should also work with Solicitor Cream for some additional easements and get that process going.
Is that all the old business under sanitary sewer? Old business under stormwater. Greenfield Road Storm Sewer Project.
paperwork's been signed. We're setting up a pre-construction meeting with staff, the contractor, and the property owners. They had submittals put in, and I think everything's been approved for them to start ordering material. That's where that stands. So we don't have an exact start date until we meet with them on site.
I think some of that material was secured. Or wasn't it?
We just have, we have one oversized box that's going to get set out on Greenfield. We ordered that with the pipe work we did. But it sounded like it was starting to get a little easier to get the ADS pipe to watertight. First, they were looking at 20-some weeks out, but I think it's getting less now. So I'll contact the contractor probably beginning of next week if I don't hear anything by the end of this week, and keep the ball rolling on that.
Any other old business under stormwater? Sounds like a no, so. New business, sanitary sewer, Cedar Acres.
There's been an investigation, I guess we brought this up before, about some downspouts tied into the sanitary sewer. I think last week they were supposed to have submitted a plan of how they were going to be disconnecting those pipes, and we have not seen anything from the city. Supposedly they do have a contractor on board to do the disconnects, but we don't know when and how they're going to do it. So we've got to follow up with the city on that. We do.
Is that our responsibility?
Is it ours?
Yeah, I mean, when it's,
Well, it's going to be coming into our system, so that's why we want to see how they're disconnected. We did install our flow meters prior to, I think, back in December, and Larry submitted that information to Matt. And I think we just put the meters back in, and we're going to monitor once all the disconnects are done to see what type of flow has been decreased. And then we're going to look at the roofs and everything like that. There was one yard inlet that was tied in, and try to get an adjustment of how much flow was actually coming in according to rain for infiltration.
I know I did ask Larry for the correlating rainfall data so we can see when it rained, and we have the flow meters to compare that data there to try to see if we can determine that does a half-inch of rain equate to so many gallons into the system based upon that. We have to try to calculate volume and what that may have been over, say, in 2020 or 2021, for example. Maybe that contributed to X number of gallons, excess cost that the authority had to pay to the city.
so we're gonna go back on the owners of Cedar Acres for that then?
We don't really have the ability to do that. Hopefully the city would, because it's in the city. That's kind of our dilemma with trying to gather the information on how much flow has been going into the system unmetered, unaccounted for, and basically paid by East Lampeter Township. So our relief would be through the city, and then if the city can go after Cedar Acres for something, that'd be up to them.
What does the city have invested in this that they would even want to do that? I mean, they already got paid from East Lampeter.
Well, they do have an ordinance that says that, you're not supposed to have, rain spouts and yard drains connected into the separate sanitary system. They do have portions of their system which are combined system, but this area is one of them. So, they have an ordinance to enforce, to restrict that flow.
It just seems to me that, what's it matter to them? Who they got the money from? They got paid for it.
It was excess flow going into the facility. So, I mean, they don't want to have, excess flow going into the pumping stations and the treatment plant either. So, I think they have some interest. They're not as greatly harmed, in my opinion, as we have been, but they have an interest in trying to get that flow. I mean, it's true. I mean, the whole beginning of this saga, because our guys found it, were told about it and followed up on it. There was one call, I guess, that went in, and that's how it was discovered by our public works folks. So,
Just doesn't seem like maybe the right checks and balances there to enforce something like that, at least the way I see it. I mean, I could be all wrong. I mean, my first question, I think, was, you know, are we going to go back on Cedar Acres and you say we don't have the ability to do that? I don't know, it seems kind of bass backwards.
Yeah, it's the agreement that we have in place, among the partners. So between East Lampeter and the city, that agreement controls all of this stuff because Cedar Acres is in the city, so we don't have any ability to go.
But it counts
directly
against
to
our
them.
flow.
It has because they're connected in. Now, our arrangement through the agreement is that there's a credit against the metered flow, to back Cedar Acres out of the calculation. The way that's been calculated has been based upon the water meter reading. So whatever the water meter reading is to Cedar Acres, that's the amount of flow assumed going into the sanitary, which connects to the system above our meter. So we need to look at that and see if there's a better way to be fair about, how much flow there is. Because there's, in a property that size with that many underground pipes, there's got to be some I&I in the system as well. So hopefully gathering all this information, analyzing it, give us a good opportunity to have a reasonable discussion with folks.
Right, but I mean, it also entails all this other information and
Yeah.
data gathering, and I mean, that costs the township money. I
Yeah.
mean, we're paying Matt's company to look into this and do the calculations and do the things that have to be done to figure out. And we have no recourse of collecting that money at all that I see. I mean, we might get a credit back from the city if they can go back to Cedar Acres on some of it, but it doesn't gonna do anything with the bill we're gonna get from HRG. Yeah. I guess I'm just. Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, but we're cynical about that then, we're.
Yeah, not fair, but, to try to get to fairness, we've got to put some energy.
I understand. I mean, it's nothing against you guys
Where
at
is
all. I'm
that
not
city
saying.
line through there? How much of that Bridgeport area is city annex?
Cedar Acres.
It's basically just Cedar Acres.
Is it East
Hack,
Manor?
is Hack?
Hack is in East Lampeter.
Really?
It's one little parcel right in the middle.
Then how can Cedar Acres be?
It's the void space in the map, in the black area.
The black area is,
Well, that's just the zoning map, but I think if you look there, just in between the two black sections, I think that's Cedar Acres.
oh, that white area, that's,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that white area.
Right
is
there,
Cedar
right there.
That's basically Cedar Acres.
So then north of that too, you're getting back into like Donley and stuff like that. They're in the city.
oh, really, that's
That
also,
whole
Yeah,
pie shape there.
It's Eden Manor.
Yeah. the history of the annexations out there is, basically Schick, when that plant went in,
sure,
they needed water and sewer. To get it, they had to be in the city.
right,
So the annexation basically went out the railroad, just a little strip
Right.
following the railroad,
mhm,
and then opened up to capture these other properties. Annexations laws have changed since then, but it was done back in the 50s or 60s.
so, but then also like where Costco and Lowe's is, that's also
Same
annexed to
thing.
the city, right?
Yeah.
Do we check on any of those areas? Doesn't that flow through our system?
It doesn't actually. There's a little, for Costco and Lowe's and all that, there's a little pumping station in front of Costco or in front of Lowe's, I forget which. And
I think it's in front of Lowe's. Used to be the old Penn Supreme building.
yeah,
Yeah,
pumps it
Supreme
over,
years ago.
pumps it over to the railroad and it follows down through the DART plant area and into the city system pretty directly.
So the city has a system on this side of the river down in there,
In that area, they do.
Yeah, it goes down along the Conestoga.
but doesn't that all flow through the one interceptor underneath the river?
Um,
Yeah, it goes down through Bridgeport and it follows the Conestoga down and it goes down near the Conestoga pump station.
So where do you meter
Ours
it?
does, but that flow
they
doesn't
cross
connect
over.
in it, doesn't? I think they cross over somewhere else.
That one I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm just saying if it's Cedar Acres, how many other, is going through our meter or paying for really areas that we don't.
Right, we have this.
Staff doesn't normally look at.
Right. We have in the agreement, we have these different areas that are credited both directions because there's some lesser, but there's some of ours that goes directly into theirs without being metered and vice versa. So we have to come up with some way to balance those out. Like we were talking about the metering program that they're undertaking now in kind of what we call the Poets area. We have a meter at Tennyson, but they have flow from some of those streets up in there that connects in above
Why
that
are
meter.
they doing the flow metering now?
Pardon me?
Why are they doing the metering now?
So the portion you were talking about there, they have what's called the Broth Interceptor
Yeah,
that connects in the water plant, Eden Manor, Donnelly, Lowe's, Costco. It all goes across the Conestoga River.
oh, it
There's
goes
a pump
up
station on the other side of
here.
Conestoga.
Yeah, they just decided that, it was time to look at this Interceptor area. They've looked at, according to them, they've looked at all the other ones in the city. So now this is the last one and they need to look at it.
It's funny, the CSL Services, he's a very personal friend of mine. He's out of Cherry Hill, and he does this all over the country, and I make fun of it because he makes a wonderful living just measuring sewage. And he said he had a little project going up in Lancaster. I'm like, what are they doing now? And
I mean, the
that they
Interceptor,
wouldn't have done before, I guess, is just the.
we asked quite a few questions about, why now and
Mhm.
what are we doing? And they went ahead and initiated this metering program. We haven't agreed to pay for anything
Mhm.
yet. So we'll see what comes out of it and then evaluate it. But I mean, it is an older, it was one of those pipes that went in back when fertility went in. Carrying the gravity flow after it comes out of fertility and hits Lincoln Highway and comes down. We had the collapse, I guess you'd call it, a few years ago, and we repaired everything down to the meter, basically down to the meter. But the rest of it, it's been in the ground that long, so it should get looked at. But we suggested that they inspect that pipe first and see what conditions it's in before they went through the whole metering program, but they felt otherwise, so.
Okay, does that cover then the city's flow monitoring report? I mean,
Yeah,
so
it's
far-
it's underway.
Yeah,
Yeah, it started a few weeks ago. It's supposed to go on for a couple months, I think.
Yeah.
So we'll see where that takes us.
gotcha.
Larry's been on top of, every time they're in our system or looking at anything, Larry's with them or somebody from PW's with them.
Tennyson meter pit.
I think based on our conversation last time, I think we need to wait and see what comes out of this metering program before we ask the authority to consider whether or not it makes sense to look at moving that meter pit or changing it or doing something else there. We'll get some information out of this metering analysis that'll help in deciding what to do there. For now, probably.
Any other new business under sanitary sewer?
There are 3 escrow agreements that have been distributed to amongst the partners for their review and approval. So if you'd like, we can go through those now. The first is, it's a escrow agreement that revises the allocations of the wastewater treatment plant special emergency capital improvements escrow. So with the special and emergency capital improvements escrow is basically looks at projects that meet the criteria that are defined as capital items costing greater than $10,000 and having a project lifespan greater than 3 years, but are not part of an overall capital project. With the latest amendment to the 1983 agreement, this amendment changed the allocations between the partners as it relates to some of the partners as it relates to the money that's already been allocated and sitting in escrow for these projects. And what this escrow agreement does, it basically closes the existing escrow agreement account at Fulton Bank and will create a new one based upon the revised allocations. So there's really no difference for your escrow agreement. It's the same percentage. You want me to discuss all 3? I can do that.
May as well.
Okay.
I don't think we have anything to say about it.
No.
The second one is the wastewater treatment plant composting system demolition escrow agreement. This requires your approval. This amendment provides funding for the demolition of the abandoned sludge processing composting system, which was actually abandoned in the early 1990s due to operational regulatory issues and ultimately replaced by the lime stabilization system, which was constructed in the mid-2000s. The area that this facility currently utilizes is going to be demolished and to be used for future sludge processing capital improvements. The total cost of the agreement is $220,000, and the authority shares $32,846. And the third is the wastewater treatment plant primary electrical service upgrade escrow agreement amendment number 3, which requires your approval. This amendment provides additional project funding needed based upon the bid results, the remaining available contingency, and a necessary contract change order for the addition of above grade cable termination cabinets. Total cost of this amendment is $280,000, and the authority share is $41,804. As I said, these were been distributed to all the partners for approval. Once everyone approves it, the city will notify and ask for payment to be made.
So we're looking for a motion to approve these 3 escrow accounts.
Yes, sir.
Charlie Hutcher on board with this? You guys don't have any problems with that?
They're all projects that we've heard
Yes.
about at the partners meetings.
I'll make a motion that we approve the WWTP composting system demolition escrow agreement and also the WWTP primary electrical service upgrade escrow agreement.
What about the first one?
And then the first one,
And also the WWTP special and emergency capital improvements escrow agreement.
I'll second that.
We got a motion and a second to approve the 3 escrow agreements. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you. That's all in the new business for sanitary sewer. Stormwater, update on the MS4.
I didn't get in.
That's not the plans here from a group called Untitled Chapter. Contact us and first time. What they're looking to do is similar to the project they've done in Chester County, and that's working with agricultural properties. Ensure that projects are on those properties within the urban area or in that one kind of circle outside of the urban area, which then they go above and beyond the requirements of the enhancement and that above and beyond and results in credits that can be sold to the board to the developer as opposed to charging stormwater. And available on we'll have a choice as to when to purchase that in this permit cycle or in the next permit. 30 farms as the top on the hook for these types of projects. Great public-private partnership.
Is it going to create a lot of work? Yeah. Sounds like a win-win.
And you say I2 Capital? Who are they?
They're finance. We'll go out and find the startup funds. That would be next. It has now approved, which is key in Chester County district, and now.
How long will this partnership, is there any kind of time period there? Is it just a couple of years? Or is it going to be for now until eternity or?
Each permit is a 5 years time frame. They're looking at it for 3 at this point, and then the option to
So our cost is only in buying the credits.
we don't engineer the project, we don't bid the project.
And we need those credits and use those credits to
Satisfy our permit,
satisfy your permit.
along with the projects that we do in-house.
Okay,
Sounds,
and you're probably going to need these credits to satisfy the permit. Because we just don't have enough projects or we don't have enough private buy into this to get projects.
We do have private buying on this
So we buy the credits. The cash goes in there. This fund, then they help fund the projects Okay, to do these work, the projects. After the projects are completed, then these credits are established and you can buy them. And they take the money back in from that.
What are they called?
That's an interesting business model. I gotta study that.
It's used a little bit on the wastewater side at treatment plants. So treatment plants have a certain allowable amount of nutrients that they can discharge for nitrogen and phosphorus. If the treatment plant treatment that they achieve exceeds what they're permitted for, and they discharge a lower volume, they're able to generate credits as well, which is the difference between those two, and sell them.
So they can sell the credits.
They can sell credits.
Somebody else buys them.
What's that? So some other treatment plant buys them. And, or if you exceed it because it's a wet year, which happened in Lake with the city a few years ago,
Then
they have to
go out
purchase them from
on the
other
market
sources.
and buy these things.
Yes. So it's another method of not having to do a capital improvement project. So it's been happening for probably 5+ years on the wastewater side for treatment plants. There are various other municipal plants that can generate credits, or I think that's probably the biggest source right now. You know, a credit probably is costing anywhere from like $1 to $5 a pound for the wastewater sites.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're hoping to have representatives here at the next meeting to explain the whole procedure and layout.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Struggling to understand that, but I'm slow.
Any other new business? Oh, you want to say something?
I just want to question the Stormwater Fund, and I see it's up to 2.5 million in total assets. This has been growing steadily. Where are, what are the plans to spend that money or do something with that money? What are we growing that money for?
We actually have a project at CAP in design right now. Concept, we actually show that design. Moving forward with that. That would be a extreme better restoration of the document. That's a that will be over 270,000. So we're looking at a price tag.
So we, for how much? So we'll do this project, we'll pay for the project, then we get the pounds of credit for this, which goes towards our permit. And am I ballparking here, but it looks like $1 million, $1.2 million in income a year, or?
Yeah.
Close.
That's about right.
I mean, that's pretty substantial.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
So
gonna,
the
that's gonna
I2
grow
capital,
quick, and 700,000 ain't gonna put much of a dent in it.
yeah,
Sorry, another project we have actually in the works is actually videoing all of the storm conditions and the placement of areas. That was also as we set up.
Okay, so that's because we own all those stone pipes. We have to replace the bad ones, but you're gonna, that work is done and there is no credits for that. That's just work that has to be done.
Just part of having a stormwater system.
Okay, so, but with stormwater pipes, I mean, a little I isn't the end of the world.
No, it's collapse. We got a lot of old, metal pipe out there that is starting out in the Greenfield corporate area. We've had a couple of the pipes just corrode and collapse that we had to go in and dig up and repair. So if they all start going at the same time, then we're going to be in trouble.
A lot of coordinated piping, with the climate, salt use, the invert of the pipe where the water's always running, even though it may be a galvanized pipe, the galvanizing wears off.
Sure.
And, from say like where the water's running, you just lose that pipe. So the pipe's holding its shape from say 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock, or 7 to like 5. But at that bottom, it's just corroded away.
And where does the stormwater authorities ownership and private ownership take place? This is just what's in the streets and what comes off the streets?
It's primarily areas in the street, but there is some that's, through easements or, across private property, other areas, but there.
But it takes care of public stormwater. It's because it's off of streets or areas.
Generally, yes, I can't give you an absolute answer to that because there are probably exceptions everywhere. But
Yeah.
We know what we own, we know what the authority owns. Can distinguish from.
Because if there's a right of way or an easement, we own that.
We own the
It's
pipes.
a public.
We own the pipe
road,
through
or
these.
if there is an easement, or if there's, that's what we own, whatever's in.
Yeah, basically, we got the right to
So
go
even
in.
though there's a parking lot that, feeds into that, we own that.
Once
Does the private property owner have any recourse or responsibility to that?
Typically, the ones that are on private property are the responsibility of that property owner.
And that would be on land development plan or on a deed that they have ownership.
There's probably exceptions to that all over.
Yeah,
And it's case by case, yeah.
Don't make it.
And of
sound
course,
that
there's-
clean. It
you
is
know, there's-
ugly.
there's,
Come on.
there's PennDOT that tries to point at us as well that.
Well, then, yeah, then you've
Things
got
that are in
state
their
road,
system.
township road.
Right.
What do you do then there?
We argue. Keep telling them it's theirs.
Okay.
There's some that, more recent developments that, they've gotten a little more detailed about it. So if the development comes in, they won't give a permit to it unless the township's accepting responsibility, and we typically turn around and hand that responsibility back to the developer. So if something happens to that pipe, it's in PennDOT's highway, PennDOT's going to come to us and say, hey, it's permitted to you. And we say, yeah, you're right. Then we go to the developer that developed it and said, you have an agreement to take care of this. So,
Right, and I just foresee going out and doing a lot of I camera work and so forth. You're going to come up with a whole list of projects to do. And we're going to have to go, well, okay, that's caused by that, that's caused by that, that's caused by that. That all runs off of PennDOT, right? But we
Don't know.
ultimately, it's our pipe, so we have to take care of it.
right. Yeah. And again, as Charlie said, it's not really I issues per se. It's just condition assessment.
Yeah, conditions, but you're going to do the cameras. You're going to come back with a whole construction list of stuff to do.
Right.
And it's like, okay,
This I2 capital project, if you agree to do that, that's going to be an outlay of those dollars as well. So
right.
those are areas where had planned and expect to spend those dollars. I forget, I think we calculated with the Peckway project that we did down at the campground. We figured out what it was per pound. It was like $3 a pound or something. Yeah, I think we can expect the I2 capital to be something more than that. Right.
And that just got turned over this year. I had our parks guy go down and make sure that they were still doing it as part of the contract. And he did a bunch of, he missed a couple spots, but they took care of it right away.
Yeah.
Basically, we just did a drive-by inspection.
As we have this conversation next time, we also need to keep in mind that we might be able to say we certify show that there's still needed above and beyond base level.
And what happens if they're not? But who's, and the maintenance is done by the property owner? Ensuring that those credits will be there for us for, well, how can they ensure that if it's property owner's responsibility to keep it maintained? Oh, come on, it don't work that way.
Who, I2 Capital? It's their responsibility. They're doing it in Chester County right
Where are they
now.
based out of? Countrywide is Y2 Capital.
I think for our purposes, and we'll have to demonstrate it to you, obviously, but it's definitely a more efficient way to get credits.
Oh, it sounds more efficient up front. I agree, but if then when I hear that the credits are only as good as long as the stuff's maintained, that's forever, isn't it? Wow. Sounds like a lot of public money being spent.
It is. I mean, it's a big push through permits to get pollution reduction done. And so, yeah, there's a lot of money being gathered and spent to do it.
I just think it just looks like this whole thing is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And if it's just one municipality, this municipalities all over the state or the basin, right?
All of the country, Fred. This is
All over the
this
country.
is happening.
This
everywhere.
isn't just the Chesapeake Basin. This is. Job security.
If you're into stormwater.
Okay.
Any other new business under stormwater? Thank you. Any other business? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.